Hello and welcome to Who Wore It Better, where I review Raw and Smackdown back to back and try and figure out which show won for the week. Well, Super Showdown is in the past and now we look forward to Crown Jewel and Evolution. Let's dive right in. Raw opens up with Shawn Michaels and Triple H making their way to the ring. They cut a very intense promo about respect and how they no longer respect Kane and The Undertaker after what happened in Australia. And they say for one night only, DX is coming back together and they're going to fight the Brothers of Destruction at Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia. So this promo pretty much confirms what many of us already suspected to be happening, is that Shawn's going to be coming out of retirement for the first time in 8+ years for this Saudi Arabia show. And I know this news has generated a lot of passionate opinions, both for and against it, for a lot of different reasons. And I understand all those reasons, but I'm not mad about this news. I just know that in wrestling, we've seen so many guys retire and come back. So in-ring returns don't really surprise me anymore. When it's in your blood, like guys like Terry Funk and Roddy Piper and Ric Flair and now Shawn Michaels, when it's in your blood like that, I can understand the itch to come back. I respect that. It would have been nice for Shawn to come back when the storyline made more sense or felt more appropriate. Yeah. Would it have been nice if he had just kept his promise and just never came back to wrestling? Yeah, that would have been honorable too. But at the end of the day, God, I mean, the pay he's getting for this is going to rival, possibly exceed anything he got from a WrestleMania bonus, for example. And, I can't get mad at him for that. Whatever his reasons were for coming back, they're his reasons, and you have to respect that. So I'm not mad that he's taken the PO. I'm not mad he's coming back to the ring. Should be very entertaining. I am curious to see how he's going to be after 8.5 years, out of active competition. I'm curious about this. First match tonight's Bobby Lashley versus Kevin Owens. Lio Rush is back with Lashley on Monday. He's got an IFB in his ear and a microphone in his hand, and he is just barking out words of encouragement throughout the entire match in support of Bobby Lashley. He's trying to get a Lashley chant started, but the fans in Chicago are having none of it. Kevin Owens, meanwhile, is wrestling a very babyface style in this matchup here, kind of like with a bit of a pep in his step and a bit of energy. I haven't seen him wrestle a babyface style since like his debut in NXT when he wrestled Juice Robinson at one of those early takeover shows. So this was kind of interesting to see both guys wrestling and performing in a different way we're used to. Lio Rush causes a pivotal distraction, allowing Lashley to win. Then after the match, Lashley beats down Kevin Owens some more. He wraps his legs around the turnbuckle post multiple times, and that's pretty much it. So now it seems we appear to have a double turn. Not very often you see this happening, and so I'm really excited about this. Very kind of like, oh, I'm very surprised that this happened. I mean, for as much as Kevin got abused earlier this year by Braun Strowman, I mean, Kevin's kind of a babyface already as it is, and the way the fans respond to him in general, and Lashley's been in this kind of holding pattern where it's like he's kind of a babyface by default, but he's a super bland babyface. And with Lio Rush being added as the mouthpiece, I thought that was a breath of fresh air for him, but I think there's so much more that can be mined from this with Lashley as kind of the strong, silent badass, while Lio Rush is the hype man, but in a negative way, kind of like building him up in a heelish way. I think I'm really curious to see where that goes. I'm very interested in that dynamic now that Lio and Bobby appear to be heels. Where's a babyface Kevin Owens going to go from here? I'm not entirely sure, considering like the main event babyface portion of Raw is pretty filled up right now with all three members of the Shield. So we'll see where that goes with Kevin. But just the fact they were able to pull off this double turn in a, historically very unforgiving city, as Chicago is, yeah, good for them. We are introduced to the WWE World Cup taking place at Crown Jewel, or more specifically, its Christian name, the World Cup to determine who is the best in the world. That was a line that was uttered a couple of times on Raw and a lot on Smackdown. Get used to that because you'll be hearing it a lot in the weeks to come, or maybe they'll get the hint and maybe scale it back a little bit as we get closer to the show. Backstage, Lashley and Lio Rush really cement their newly christened heel status by interrupting an interview with Bayley and Finn Balor. And ooh, they've done it now. I mean, I thought it was ambiguous when he beat up Kevin Owens, but now that they've interrupted Bayley and Finn, ooh, they've crossed a line. Elias cuts a great promo about John Cena's hair in the city of Chicago when he's interrupted by Ronda Rousey's music, which leads to a rematch from the Australia show. It's Ronda Rousey and the Bellas versus the Riot Squad, just what everyone was asking for. There's a great part early in the match when they tease the yes kicks between Brie, Bella, and Liv Morgan, but Liv ducks it. I just noticed this in the commentary here, how Cole multiple times referred to Brie and Nikki as former champions. Like, that was the verbiage he used. He didn't say former Divas champions, which I thought was interesting. That That to me seemed very deliberate, and it seemed like that's kind of like a directive from the higher up saying divas is a dirty word, and so we can't mention that, which I think is a little annoying. I mean, like, yeah, we've evolved from divas to female wrestlers and everything and female superstars, but to completely ignore the fact that that was a thing back then, I think that seems a little unnecessary. Brie takes all the heat in this matchup till a hot tag on Ronda Rousey, and she cleans house, beats up everyone, and puts Ruby in the armbar to win the match for her team. So the babyfaces win again, but wait, it turns out the Bella Twins gently beat up Ronda Rousey on the outside and everything, and they lay her out. And so this is what sets up the rumored Nikki Bella Ronda Rousey match. Maybe it wasn't rumored, maybe it was confirmed, I don't know. But that was the match everyone kind of knew was happening for Evolution. I will say this for fans, at least now you have an excuse to boo and dislike the Bellas because they're the heels in this situation. We had Team B&B, Bayley and Balor versus Mahalisha, in a continuing battle between these four to help build up interest for the Mixed Match Challenge. Finn wins for his team with the coup de grace to Jinder. It was entertaining for what it was, and that's pretty much all I can say about it. Up next is the Global Battle Royal, which was put on by acting general manager Baron Corbin. Basically, the winner of this match will qualify for the World Cup to determine who is the best in the world at the Crown Jewel. And God, look at all this local talent in the ring. You've got like a chef, you've got a masked sombrero wearing luchador, you have a Chilean sea bass, you have a sultan, you've got a Russian guy, you have a guy with just a sash across his chest that says Luxembourg. If half those guys actually wrestle with those gimmicks in their local Illinois indies, I would lose my shit. Corbin dominates everybody except for the Conquistador, who has a very distinct body type, by the way, but he pieces out like immediately in the match. Like he kind of goes to the second or bottom rope and just chills for the most of the match. When Baron thinks he's won, the Conquistador reveals himself. He gets a couple of German suplexes on Baron Corbin. The Angle Slam gets Corbin out of the ring, and of course he unmasks, and it's Kurt Angle making his first appearance back since he was put on vacation by Stephanie McMahon, and I thought it was a great moment. It's a great continuation of that kind of restarting of the storyline. Get some revenge on Baron Corbin. I honestly did not like put two and two together and realize that was Kurt until like after Corbin thought he won. You see the shot of the Conquistador, like I got a really good look at him. I was like, oh my God, that's totally Kurt Angle. That's so cool. And then when he busts out the moves and everything, that just sealed it. That was, yeah, I really enjoyed this this ending segment in the match here. I think the local guys in the silly looks and everything, this reminds me of like when Paul London was El Gran Luchador against JBL, or when Johnny Gargano's wrestling as like a dude in German lederhosen or something against, I think it was Sylvester Terkay. I used the footage of this in one of my recent videos, but yeah, there's a video somewhere I have of Gargano dressed as like a local, German guy getting beat up. That's what that reminded me of. Up next, Ember Moon takes on Nia Jax. It's some friendly face versus face competition. The story with Nia Jax seems to be is that she's so busy living that reality TV life. How will she be able to adjust getting back into the ring? The match ends in a count out when Nia tries to bowl Ember over, and Ember gets out of the way, and so Nia just eats shit on the apron. And so Ember wins by count out. Nia gets back in the ring and hugs Ember Moon, all that stuff. I'm kind of surprised it didn't turn into a heel turn based on everything, all the other wild shit we've seen on this show tonight. So I'm wondering, is this going to be an angle for Nia Jax, and the idea of like, how can she balance in-ring stuff with her life as a newfound celebrity? Can she truly have it all? It's kind of a weird angle for anybody. I don't remember ever them talking about this about John Cena or The Rock when they got into Hollywood. It's Trish Stratus time. The Hall of Famer comes out to address Alexa Bliss at Evolution. Alexa and Mickie James both come out, and at one point Trish does address the whole mathematical error that Alexa Bliss had in last week's moment of bliss. Alexa does the old humble, turns into a bitch promo, which she's done over and over again. It's beaten to death. Mickie challenges Trish to a tag team match at Evolution between her and Alexa versus Trish and TBA. And so then Trish immediately introduces Lita. It's almost like she had this planned. Lita comes out and they clean house, and the baby faces. The Hall of Famers stand tall here. I like this move because the rumored matches was, Trish versus Alexa, and then there's this rumored match of like Mickie and Lita, which like, okay, but like this makes more sense to me to have Trish versus Mickie in some capacity in a match here. It seems like a nice compromise. I would have liked to have just seen a straight up Trish versus Mickie match at Evolution if we're going to do Legends matches. But this tag match here seems like a nice compromise. I wasn't really buying Alexa versus Trish, so this kind of combining the two here, it works for me. Chad Gable and Bobby Roode take on the Ascension, featuring my new favorite wrestler, Connor. During the intros for Gable and Roode, the announcers bring up, this is a very successful tag team, but not so much in singles competition. Like, dude, they won like one, maybe two matches as a tag team before they did the shit with the Ascension. Slow your roll. Gable steals the tag from Bobby Roode, hits Victor with a rolling German suplex to win the match. Bobby looks very perturbed, but before anything can develop from that, the AOP just come and wreck shit. They beat up all four guys, and that's pretty much it. You know, I can't imagine why. I know some people kind of are poo-pooing this angle, but I don't understand why people would be mad about this angle with these four guys. You know, everyone always cries to be seeing new and different things on the shows. This was new and different. I mean, giving the Ascension a little bit of a chance to get over, get some TV time. We're getting some more like progress in the Bobby Roode, Chad Gable thing, and they got a pretty darn good tag team match out of it on Raw. And so it would have been nice to see the Ascension keep their momentum going after Connor Mania has been running wild the last couple of weeks, but you know, there you go. A wild Paul Heyman appears. He cuts a really strong promo hyping the ever-loving shit out of this upcoming main event we have just moments away. He hypes up the company. He hypes up Brock Lesnar wanting to be a two-sport champion. It's a really awesome promo just to remind you that Brock Lesnar's still there, kind of like lurking somewhere in the shadows. Like, he has become essentially a boogeyman for WWE. It's like you never know when he's going to come and fuck shit up. Main event time, The Shield takes on Braun and Friends in a rematch from Super Showdown. I just wanted an excuse to run this lower third again. So yeah, another rematch from Saturday's show in Australia. Okay, at least they capped themselves off at 2 for the night. This was a very exciting match. At one point, Braun gets mad at Dolph and Drew, and he wants to give Dolph those hands, but Drew cuts him off, so there's some tension there. Bunch of wild and crazy shit in this matchup here. It ends when Dean Ambrose eats the Claymore, and McIntyre wins for his team. 50-50 booking. What are you going to do? We'll see where it goes in future installments to see who ultimately wins this one, but Dean walks out in a huff from his Shield brethren, so that creates more intrigue. And again, like I keep saying this, like they're building to this eventual possible breakup with Dean Ambrose, but really there's no, it's kind of like Kevin Owens right now as a face. There's nowhere to go. There's no, like, the ceiling for Dean is pretty much as high as it's going to go, because I don't see him beating Seth. I certainly don't see him beating Roman anytime soon, unless they do some wild-ass booking, but I just don't know what they're going to do. I guess, you know, in that way, I'm very interested in seeing, like, are they really going to do it? And if so, how are they going to make it work? Also, now that Braun's kind of reminded everyone, like, why this union with him and Dolph and Drew even exists in the first place, it really makes seeing his trajectory from here on out very interesting to watch, because, you know, this breakup between him and Dolph and Drew is inevitably going to happen, but the real thing to look out for is to see where he lands after it. Will he keep staying in the upper mid-card area, challenging Roman for the Universal Championship for a while, or is he going to fall backwards? I think the ultimate kind of low they could go is to turn him kind of into a comedy act, which they were on the border of doing when he was a babyface this past year, but at least he wasn't wearing a top hat and dancing or some shit. Oh, by the way, one cool thing I noticed, not one CM Punk chant the entire night in Chicago. Eat it. Smackdown begins right away with the Women's Championship match as Becky Lynch defends against Charlotte. No intros, no walking down the aisle, just starts with them in the ring right away, and the match is on. The title can change hands via disqualification, by the way. It's a great match between these two, only for it to end at a double countout. They brawl to the stage, and Charlotte spears Becky through the set, shades of Rhino hitting the gore on Chris Jericho. Does that mean we're getting a new set for Smackdown? I wonder. And then they announce later in the night that they're going to have another match again at Evolution. Last Woman Standing. You know, several weeks ago I said I think they've run out of match types for them to have women's versions of. I was wrong, because here's another one, Last Woman Standing. That being said, I think these two, if any two women can pull that match off and make it good, I think these two can do it, because I'm really liking where this angle's going. Up next, it's a World Cup to determine who is the best in the world qualifying match as Jeff Hardy takes on Samoa Joe. You know, the old saying was Matt Hardy will not die. Jesus Christ, Jeff Hardy, for all the stuff he's put himself through over the years, he's not gonna die. He's not going anywhere. Like, I thought he was taking time off. Like, it is his first appearance as Hell in a Cell, but I figured after a spill like that, and considering his condition, you'd think he'd be out for longer. But props to him for coming back anyway. Against Samoa Joe, who's still selling his leg injury from the match in Australia against AJ Styles. That will be his downfall in this matchup here, because he keeps being unable to get up after Jeff attacks the leg. The referee throws the match out and awards Jeff the victory. So he wins there. It is kind of a way to protect Samoa Joe from, like, a decisive loss, but he still loses. He still kind of looks like, oh, he can't. This badass guy, you know, he can't. He just can't shake his leg and make it feel better. I mean, come on, Samoa Joe, what's the deal there? So yeah, it was a match that never really got anywhere, and it ended kind of on a flat note. Up next, Miz TV with special guests AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan. They'll be facing off with each other at Crown Jewel for the championship. The Miz, he starts off the segment by establishing he's been told to act professional, and so he's trying to do that. But like the whole segment, it's like Daniel and AJ are both taking shots at the Miz, and just seeing his facial expressions, trying to keep his composure, I think was a great little bit there. Miz finally snaps and takes shots at both of them. He talks about how like Daniel Bryan winning in Australia sucked the wind out of the arena, which it did. It was a very surprising finish. I know that the crowd wasn't prepared for it. And then also he brings up AJ Styles' reign as champion and how it's not prestigious anymore, and how there's a reason he doesn't main event pay-per-views. That kind of stung, I bet. And so then he says he's got dibs on whoever wins at Crown Jewel. Good work by the Miz on the mic here. Good face and face banter between AJ and Daniel. We lead into a match with AJ Styles and Shelton Benjamin getting 2 weeks in a row of TV time. Good for him. However, it's not 2 wins in a row. He beat Daniel last week, but he lost to AJ Styles here. AJ wins with the phenomenal forearm. Aiden English is back in the ring to show us the rest of the salacious footage of one night in Milwaukee. He says, I've been getting 6-figure deals to sell it, but instead he's going to give it away for free, apparently. So he shows more of the clip, and it's like, oh, it's, you know, like I said last week, when it cuts off at Lana saying, I want you, it was going to lead to something innocent, and that's what it was. Lana says, I want you. I want you to know how much Rusev appreciates you. Oh, so it just confirms what I already knew, that Lana doesn't speak like a normal human being. So the video ends when Aiden puts his hand on Lana's arm, freeze frame there, and then he calls out Rusev, and Rusev comes out, and Aiden's like, you know, I'll destroy this footage if you agree to dump your wife and come back and hang out with me again, and it will be Rusev Day again. What a great ransom this is. So then Lana comes out, and she says that, oh, I've hacked your phone and everything. Oh, those Russians and their affinity for hacking. And so they show the rest of the footage, and it shows that Lana rejects Aiden's advances and walks out, so Aiden's kind of humiliated. And so Aiden then says, with the offer still on the table, if you're tired of having a Rusev day, why don't you make it an Aiden night? And then that causes Rusev to snap, chase after him, chases him out of the ring. I really enjoyed this segment. Aiden comes off like such a sleaze here, which is a great little wrinkle for his character, and so I'm really interested in seeing where this goes. They announced that next week Rey Mysterio is going to be facing Shinsuke Nakamura in a World Cup to determine who's the best in the world qualifying match for Smackdown 1000, and I'm hyped for that match. And speaking of the World Cup to determine who's the best in the world, we have a World Cup to determine who's the best in the world qualifying match in the main event, as Randy Orton takes on The Big Show, who we haven't seen, at least in ring capacity, in over a year. Last time we saw him in a match, he was slammed through the cage wall by Braun Strowman, written off TV. He's had hip surgery since then, and he looked okay here. You know, I have to give props to Show for taking a big drape over DDT bump from the ropes like he did. At the end of the match, Orton pokes Show in the eye, hits Show with the RKO for the first time in months since his heel turn, and he wins the match and goes on to the aforementioned thing in Saudi Arabia. This was an okay match, you know, it didn't blow me away. It was cool to see Big Show back, so there's some novelty there, but you know, at his age, after hip surgery, yeah, that can, you know, he was kind of limited, and that can certainly be forgiven. Time now for me to decide which shows won for the week, Raw or SmackDown. This is a very tough choice for me this week, because I believe both shows really brought it this time, but I ultimately have to go with Raw for the second week in a row. It is very difficult to keep my interest for the entire 3 hours and keep me engaged and keep me entertained, but I feel that Raw this week really did that. You know, from the very beginning, the opening promo with DX announcing the match at Crown Jewel, say what you will about that, the very captivating double turn with Lashley and Kevin Owens. Again, we don't see double turns very often, and you kind of have to be like right on the mark with it in order for it to work and really pay off, and I think they did that here in a very, very smarky town of Chicago. They made it work, so the timing worked for that as well. Paul Heyman's promo was top-notch. The main event, even though it was a rematch from Saturday, I think it added to that. In fact, it might have even surpassed that one. I think this was a better match than the six-man in Australia, for that matter. The one knock I had on Raw this week was just the Ember Moon Nia Jax match, and just wondering where they're going with Nia Jax's character from here on out. With SmackDown, I think it was a very nice flow as well in this show. What I did like, and I didn't talk about in the main review, is their use of little short video packages to hype up different wrestlers. Like all the guys who were competing in those World Cup qualifiers and, Rey Mysterio as well. Those were really well done. They didn't like dominate the show. There was a lot of them, but they just, they were fun. They were engaging. They were maybe about 30 seconds each. And so I think that kind of held your attention. Becky and Charlotte was a good match despite the finish. I love the bit with Aiden and Rusev and Lana. Miz TV was entertaining as well. I didn't care for the Samoa Joe Jeff Hardy match just because of that weird ending, which I would imagine is designed to protect Samoa Joe, but it didn't really do that. And also, this is, I think I'm going to put the fault on SmackDown more in this one. I think Raw had some repetition, but SmackDown had a lot of repetition of that phrase, World Cup to determine who's the best in the world. When you hear that like multiple times a segment, that just like, it's like a nail in my ear, and I just didn't want to hear Tom Phillips say that shit anymore. It was just, I was done. And I really hope they scale it back next week after this whole thing on SmackDown. That's just too much. Let me know what you guys thought about Raw and SmackDown this week in the comments section below, and be sure to vote which show you thought was better in the gimmick in the upper right hand corner of your screen. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com, and check out Patreon.com/WrestlingWithRegret for exclusive perks and bonus content. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.